Bitcoin will change a lot of structures, I think, in our financial system, but in general in our society, and I think also in political and nation state level. But at the other side, the nation state level, like politicians already kind of adopted. The central banks definitely they fight it like like hell. I mean, if you hear how Christine Lagarde talks about Bitcoin and all of that, it's rather disappointing. But they just like try to fight it as good as possible. Who do you think will really fight? Is it the banks? Is it central banks? Is it like a collective of the institutions together? Because I feel like the more and more Bitcoin comes in there, all those fighters against Bitcoins kind of have a more of an incentive to actually adopt it and kind of play with it, because at some point they realize they cannot really fight against it.
Well, I mean, in short, those who benefit from the old system will fight it. So, right, like those who are benefiting from the corrupt monetary system, the money printer, will fight it, because that's how humans are. Unfortunately, humans are disappointing. So, in short, that's the short answer. But I think that there's a few things happening at the moment that are really interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how they play out. And I think they're going to sort of create a split or a division in the world, unlike what we've ever seen. I think open claw is a genie that's been let out of the bottle that is going to prove to be a defining moment in humanity's history, in my opinion. I think it's going to be the thing that triggers mass unemployment very quickly. I think within 2 years, the world is going to look very, very different. We're going to see announcement after announcement after announcement of corporations and companies laying off people. And this is why we're seeing this week in the EU, in my opinion, they're announcing we have a digital currency coming, because they have to print money. And historically, as much as we like to say that fiat money is broken, yes, it's broken, but it also works. And what I mean by that is that if you look at 1929, when they didn't print money, look at what happened. There were deaths. It took 20-something years from memory to get back to the same point in the stock market. Whereas today, it gets back there after an economic crisis in 6 months. Why? Because they learned from the past. And when we have these problems, they print. COVID, print. 2008, print, right? It stops people dying, and it stops rioting and killing, like Tony from the Bitcoin Way, his story in Lebanon. I know Tony very well. He's a very good friend of mine. Some of the stories that you'll learn from Tony over a whiskey and a cigar about what really happens when ATMs stop, you don't even want to see what happens, right? Like we're seeing it now, not an hour from here in Cuba. They're lining up right now in Cuba for 8 hours to get to an ATM, and the maximum they can take out is $6 because of capital controls. So with AI, I think governments are going to go into digital currencies as quickly as they can. They're going to print like crazy, and it's going to enslave people into a system where the government has maximum surveillance and can control where you can spend your money, what you can spend it on. They won't have to tax you because they'll just be able to take it, right? There won't be a permission required. And I think in that world, I don't see any other way around it, because corporations and businesses either use the gunpowder that is AI or end up getting shot. That's the reality. And so you are going to see mass unemployment. You're going to see governments print and issue digital currencies. And the only off-ramp in that world is permissionless money, Bitcoin, which is the ability to transact peer-to-peer as the white paper always intended. And that's when people start. I'm about to do a conference, and I'm only going to accept Bitcoin because I want people to experience, most of them for the first time in their lives, what it is to transfer value from peer to peer without an intermediary. That is a revolutionary idea that can only be fully understood when you force them to do it. And so big nod to sort of, the Bitcoin Prague event, because I think that's one of the highest signal, best Bitcoin events in the world. They banned fiat in the event. and it was the best thing ever. So I think that's the world we're heading to. I think AI is going to start. I mean, we saw Brian Armstrong last week announce that they are enabling AI agents to trade crypto accounts on your behalf. It is inevitable that we are going to see a massive adoption, in my opinion, when AIs can't use fiat. They have to use digital, right? They have to use, either, shitcoins or Bitcoin. And I think AI will quickly figure out who's who and what's for what. So it's going to be very interesting times, Robin.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro-seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro-seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. The open claw thing is very interesting for me because the inventor Peter Steinberger is actually coming very close from my hometown, from Upper Austria in Austria, and it went viral I think this week because he is now going to open AI in America, and he's one of the examples I'm now pointing towards. That talent is leaving Europe to go somewhere else. USA is obviously a big one, but also just like going to global players around the world, but they are leaving Europe. And this hit home for me because he's really, like, Austria is very small, if you see it on the map, and Upper Austria is even smaller, and Open Claw comes from Upper Austria. Peter Steinberger was in HTL Braunau. I was almost at that school. I got into two schools, and this was one of them. I decided against that school. I guess maybe it was a mistake after all. But this was really interesting for me that, like, such a big talent, obviously, is going from Europe to America. And I think you are also from Australia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And you also now left. So there's like a really interesting dynamic. I think that AI, Bitcoin, just like remote work and globalization in general will enable where people no longer stay in countries just because they are born there. They will be in the country where they are treated best. And now money is borderless. Work can be borderless. Then you're like, why do I stay? Like, what's keeping me? Yeah, friends and family, maybe, but like that's a crazy shift that's currently happening.
I see it everywhere. I've been gone for over a year, and I have homes in 3 parts of the world, and I travel, fairly consistently. But I see it all the time. I see people just saying, I've had enough. I've had enough of the tyranny. In Australia, you're basically working till Thursday morning for the government if you're a producer. If you're doing at all well, your tax bracket is up there. And they're having enough. Their free speech is being taken away. The housing affordability crisis is basically young people can't buy a home anymore in Australia. And when that happens, the knock-on effects are terrible for the country because they don't feel they have agency in the country anymore. And when that happens, it's terrible. And the knock-on effects of inflation are just terrifying. It basically, one of the biggest things is people don't have kids anymore because they can't afford to live, right? And if you can't have kids, then it's really problematic because that's one of the most fulfilling things humans can do. And it's what moves our society forward. But when broken money stops child production, and people go, what's really the problem? The problem is your corrupt politicians are inept. They can't resist money printers. And Australia, one of the reasons I left is it's become a socialist country officially now, because about a year ago, we crossed the Rubicon, and now more than 50% of the voting population of Australia relies on a government job or a government subsidy as their principal form of income. So what that means is from now going forward, when we go to the polls, whichever politician promises the most free stuff to the majority of the people who rely on the money printer, they win. So it's going to be a long road out of that. And it's very hard in a democracy to get elected under an austerity platform. So it's, I think, you've got to play the cards that are in front of you today. And that's why I left. Panama is my base. Panama is a very, very free country. It's well located. It's on the Eastern time zone of the United States. It's close to South America, close to the US. Great place to live. And I spend months here, and I spend months in Bali and months in south of France. So yeah, the world is changing.
How do you think this will continue? Like, what is the end game here? Is there like the global borders kind of like less and less important, or is this because like the sovereign individual kind of playing out?
I think they're more important to the governments. I think what you're going to see in Europe, where was it that just announced the unrealized capital gains tax in Europe?
Netherlands.
Netherlands. That's wild. What a concept, right? Literally still, they don't participate in the downside, but they're happy to take the upside every single year with no investment in the person. It's wild to me. Why would you stay? It's absolutely insane. So I think what you're going to see is desperate Western governments that are collapsing, running the old playbook of, don't worry, we're going to steal from the rich. But the bar for what's rich is going to get dropped lower and lower and lower, because with inflation these days, like if you're a millionaire, it doesn't really mean much. Like in Australia, the average family is a millionaire. All that means is they own a home, right? Like if you go to places like Indonesia, they give you a home if you're Indonesian. Indonesians have their own home as well. It's not as fancy as an Australian home, but they have their own homes. So you're going to see this world where failing governments are going to restrict movement. There'll be capital controls, and then there'll be physical border controls. We're seeing in Australia now, if you owe the tax office a large amount, they stop you at the airport from leaving. America taxes their citizens globally, no matter where you move. Even if you leave the country and you set up in Thailand, you've still got to remit a tax return in the US. I think more countries are going to adopt that. I've seen countries now where when you leave, they tax you for 5 years after you left as if you're still there. I think this is going to increase. And then there are going to be a few countries like Panama, like Uruguay, Paraguay, maybe other countries around the world that make a business out of attracting those high net worth individuals. And Andrew from the Nomad Capitalist says it best: go where you're treated best. And I went to his conference last year. I spoke at that conference, and I see a very bright future for his community and people who are helping people with that relocation. Because the truth is, if you try to tax the rich, they move. Look at Dubai. Dubai is booming, like absolutely wild what's happening in Dubai, because people are just getting treated better, right? It's safe. The banks are good. Like you can get a beautiful property there. Like it's a silly idea to think you're going to just keep taxing people. People are just going to move. And this again is a use case for Bitcoin. if you've got rich people, how many of them are going to go, you know what, I should stick $1 million, just $1 million into Bitcoin, just so if something happens with the banking rails, I've got this economic power in cold storage that I can just jump on a plane and move, and I've still got a little backup there, right? The world's going to wake up to it because the West is failing. It's not an opinion, it's failing. And the currency, people sort of laugh about Bitcoin going up and down. I'm like, dude, do you have in US dollars? I mean, that's the best of them. And it's down 95% in the last 100 years. Like since COVID, it's down by half, right? Like if you saw it on a chart, it looks like a shitcoin. The only difference is they hide it in inflation. That's it. That's the trick. But people just don't see the trick because they're uneducated and they're living on a high time preference where they're so busy just trying to feed their family and their kids that they don't know they're being played.
It's super interesting because I see countries like the Netherlands, but also like most countries in Europe that say, okay, we want to catch the social welfare. So like we want to have a great social net and we want to increase social welfare and like basically attract the people that want to benefit from that social network. But at the same time, they're trying to tax the rich. So I'm like, okay, you're so incentivizing people to come to your country that don't want to work, and you're incentivizing the people in the country to do not work, and the people that do work and provide jobs, that provide the income for the country. Them you want to punish and basically drive out of your own country. That's a failing formula. That's like really interesting how it plays. And I think they're still very arrogant, you know, like it's like, oh, like European country, it's like so nice, so safe and all of that. They still have that kind of arrogance, especially in the political level. I don't know. They probably need like another 10, 20 years to wake up. What do you think?
100%. I mean, the only way they're going to really get it is when people start moving. And they take their economic power with them. You know, it's expensive and it's hard. Well, at least for Australians. Like in Australia, we have a thing called deemed disposal rules, which mean if you're going to hand in your resignation with the tax department, you have to assess your estate and pay capital gains on your assets as if you'd sold them. And it's a big disincentive to leave, right? I paid that bill. It was a big bill, right? But now I'm free. But more and more people will do it. But I think they're going to do it when they start to really see what's coming down the line. And I just don't think people realize how vulnerable they are right now. Anybody who's got a job right now, very few jobs are safe. There are some, but very few are safe from what's coming. And when they lose their job and when they start to realize, hang on, I'm going to be swept into a world of digital currency and so on, that's when they're going to start to realize, oh, hang on a second. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the governments do have a level of arrogance. And I really also don't think people understand how deeply freaking incompetent and stupid these people are that we have leading our countries.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because MicroSeed is not selling the washer. MicroSeed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.